And also a lot of people on LinkedIn also requested that we record this and then share them with. By the way, Ananda is my partner in crime, so she will be
nice to have you here too.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Also, Iowa State University.
Yes.
Cool.
Same program.
Cool. So let me introduce you because we are just on time. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I am happy that we have a really good number for this workshop. And today we have Burak Senel with us. He will give us a workshop about ethical and responsible use of ChatGPT for research and instruction. And just as an introduction of Burak, he is a PhD student in applied linguistics and technology in Iowa State University. And I have to say that he's just doing the right dissertation in the right moment, because he's actually working with generative AIs. So, and he also studied a master's degree in Arizona in natural processing language. So he is also already quite expert in the field. And apart from that, he was also teaching 10 years. So he also have a first-hand experience that can inform actually how these tools can be integrated in instruction. So with not further ado, please, Burak, the floor is yours. So just go ahead.
Thank you so much, Francisco. It's an honor to be with these people from social science and all other disciplines, I'm told, from various backgrounds, really. And I intend this workshop to be a workshop / conversation, because I am bringing this natural language processing and machine learning aspect to it, and maybe pedagogical aspect to it. But there's a lot of knowledgeable people in the audience, so I would like to sort of create that feedback loop and then go somewhere together with some of the directions that I ingrained in my presentation, and hopefully this will be a good one. So I'm going to share my screen now, and I will also move my head away from the cam because my bigger screen is in front of me, and that's how I will guide this presentation. So please do not think that I'm being disrespectful by looking away. I'm looking at the screen, actually. All right. So, ethical and responsible use of ChatGPT in research and academic instruction. Remembering the why, speculating on the how. So this is how we're going to do it. Some meta information. Dr. Olivos already provided some information. So I have 10 years of experience. I did my master's as a Fulbright scholar at the University of Arizona on natural language processing. I am currently a doctoral student at ISU, focusing on generative AI use in research. Today's workshop is, I swear this is the bulk of the text I have for the presentation, because you'll see it's very blank. It just has guiding points for us to fill in together. But in this workshop, we're going to do some hands-on activities, and we are also going to try to understand ChatGPT's capabilities and limitations. I will introduce some framework for research and pedagogical practices, and then we will have a Q&A session at the end. Hopefully, this will leave you with maybe more questions, but some answers to as to how to use ChatGPT in research and education. So my objectives include providing a comprehensive introduction to ChatGPT and its potential application to research and academic instruction, introducing frameworks and resources for effectively and ethically implementing ChatGPT in research and teaching practices, offer hands-on experience with ChatGPT, enabling participants to explore its capabilities and limitations. Of course, I took into consideration that in Hong Kong, Dr. Olivas informed me that ChatGPT as a website is not available. So I think you will use an app for that, which is also okay for this workshop. I will also encourage critical thinking and ethical considerations when using ChatGPT in academic and research settings, and hopefully facilitate an open discussion through surveys and Q&A session addressing participants' concerns and questions. So you will get to ask all of your burning questions to me about machine learning, AI, ChatGPT. I have been writing on the topic for Sage Publishing, and I have been giving presentations internationally and within US. But first, let's remember the why, because that's what we are here for, right? Why do we do science, first of all? That's the big question. We need to answer this question first, because it will affect how we use ChatGPT and what kind of principles we need using ChatGPT. So if you could unmute yourself, or if you feel a little bit shy today, just type in the text box on Zoom, state your name, and just state your personal reason as to why you do science or why you think we do science. All right, generate knowledge. When we're talking about generative AI, generate knowledge. That's human business. Generate knowledge. It's actually very good, because science in Latin comes from the word to know. So that's a good point. And then I'm seeing other answers here. Policy advocacy. That's also very good. Find answers to puzzling questions. Definitely, we have some questions that we ask, and then we need to know the answers. That's why we do science. Find solutions. Definitely questions. When there's questions, there is solutions. But to get to solutions, we need to first ask questions, right? That's a very good point. Solve problems. Answer questions in an empirical way. Make sense of the world, definitely. Make sense of the world. Science actually starts with, right, fundamentally, we humans look around and try to understand nature. That's how we start science. First, we have some myths accumulating about why that, thunderstorm happened, or why there was a fire in some certain forest. And then we develop some kind of tools to observe the nature. One of the biggest tools being our brains and our sensory organs. Through, our eyes, ears, we receive some data, and then we think about them, hopefully sensibly, and then we produce some idea of how the world in general works. Very good answers here. Explain phenomena, definitely. Understand the world, make sense of the world. Great points here. What makes a good scientist then? If the aim is to answer questions, find solutions, look at the nature and try to understand it, what makes a good scientist? In other words, what does a good scientist need to consider then, finding answers or asking questions? And this can be a one-word answer, or this can be a, couple of sentences, one sentence, anything. I'm seeing one answer: published in an impact score 5+ journals. Just kidding, I had to write it. Tobias, yeah. Critical thinking, objectivity. I love it. I love this crowd. This crowd is just the right crowd for this workshop. Critical thinking, definitely. Objectivity, exactly. Although, can we really be objective, right? That's one question, but definitely shooting for objectivity is very important. Open-minded, exactly. open-minded. We need to consider different perspectives to the questions or answers. Following a reproducible method, amazing right there. Reproducibility, this is also a test for my English spelling, a lot of Latin-based words here today. Robustness and credibility, amazing. Credibility, creativity. This is a dictionary definition. I am amazed at how amazing people are willing to, how amazingly people are answering this question. Being able to control our own standpoint while conducting research. Empathy, something that the machine can't, only fake. Or, you know, natural language, something the machine can't understand, but can fake and mimic very well. Amazing here as well. So moving on, these are all going to make sense as to why I'm having you answer these questions, because these questions will guide us into our quest to use ChatGPT in our research, right? So now that we got research, right, but we're not only researchers, we are also teachers, instructors, professors. Why do we teach? Why do we try to transfer knowledge, impart knowledge? Great. Again, notice knowledge is being brought up, right? So science, it was about finding some facts and generating knowledge. This is imparting knowledge. So two pillars of the academic adventure, really, or academic endeavor. All right. Nurture future change makers. I love that rhyme over there. Nurture future change makers. Definitely. One of the changes happened in the past with the computers, right? And now the world is moving towards AI, and AI enhanced research and teaching is becoming a thing more and more. And now we don't even question computers' existence. We left the question why we need to include computers behind. We're discussing how we include computers, and there will come a time where we will ask the same question about AI. It's not whether or not we should include AI, it's how do we include AI. Prepare students for the workplace. Very good. Again, avoid harm, inspire people. Avoid harm. Yeah, it's speculated that it's one of the reasons why we share knowledge in the past, right? We saw a scorpion with this color and we had to share it because we didn't want others to be hurt by the same dangerous being. Expanding the horizon of us and our students, provide practical skills and toolkits. Very well done. So I realize we answered a lot of questions, so I'm going to go ahead and do this for us. What makes a good instructor for me? Again, empathy is really, really important. Good listener. Willing to share knowledge. Of course, there is a lot to being a good instructor, but these are some of the things that I came up with, and a good planner and then good communication are some of the things. All right, so we have those things. Now that we sort of created this conversation around why we teach, what are some good qualities of a researcher, teacher. Now let's get to know ChatGPT a little bit and try to see how this new tool can help us bring those good qualities to whatever we're doing, okay? So ChatGPT overview here. ChatGPT is a generative AI language model. In fact, it's in the name itself. GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Generative because it's able to generate text. Pre-trained because it's already trained and done in the past. Now you can use it, you can fine-tune it further to do other things, such as chat with people. That's where the verb chat comes from. So ChatGPT is a GPT model that was trained to chat with people. This transformer word can be a little bit involved. Transformer is just one of the approaches to machine learning. And if you would like to learn more about this, you need to, one good source is Attention is All You Need by Google Brain scientists. ChatGPT is also a tool, a chatting machine learning tool, large language model that's seen lots and lots and lots of text, developed by OpenAI. OpenAI comes into the picture because there's a group of people who say, you know what? All these companies like Facebook and some organizations, big organizations like Stanford University, they have a lot of computational power and a lot of scientists, and they are able to use those resources and scientists to produce some great large language models or AI models in general. But they either limit its use to public or they use it to profit. So a group of people, actually, fun fact, Elon Musk was one of them, and then he sort of left the company, came together and created an open AI service. And they started, building AI tools like Dolly for image generation and ChatGPT. But then something happens and they gain some attention from big companies, and they are bought up by Microsoft and owned by 80% by Microsoft today. So that's one piece of information that we need to know to discuss how ethical it is to use this, trust this tool in education and research. Moving on. Some history too. So we humans started with tools that either amplified what we had, amplify what we have. Two examples is we are able to see, but we can't see tiny things. So we created microscope. We are able to see, but we are not able to see far away things. So we created telescope. And then other tools enabled us to do what we can't or what we couldn't. Such as we can't fly, but now we have planes. But also, this process went back. We wanted tools to look like us too. That's how this all started. We wanted to create tools that could do things that we could do. And one of the earliest examples of those tools is this chatbot here. Elisa, what Elisa does is Elisa uses some type of programming technique. You type to Elisa, for example, my tummy hurts, and it was specifically used in psychotherapies. What Elisa could do was change the word my and I with you, and then turn it into a question. For example, why does your tummy hurt? And this gave it the illusion that Elisa was actually understanding the patient's, feelings. But it was formal language, meaning when you gave Elisa, for example, something like, I want to eat pizza today, it would just be confused because, the sentence might be too complicated for it to process, or something like today, I saw a bear and my mom fainted. It would start to get confused. So that motivated us to create models that could understand natural language. Natural language is polysemous. Natural language generally is messy. That's why we are having a lot of communication issues, because one word can mean a lot of things, but computers don't understand that. Computers actually understand very clear, structured instructions. If an instruction can mean two things, the machine will not do it, won't be able to do it. That is until now. So I already talked about this a little bit, but we have these large language models, right? But then they can be further fine-tuned, such as ChatGPT, to do tasks for us, such as chat, like a human being. And that's the process that they were able to fine-tune the GPT model further. So step one includes, notice the human in the process here. Let me change the color of this. Notice the human here. But watch what OpenAI does. So GPT is a model that can autocomplete text. So you give GPT, think of Siri, right? It's Siri on steroids. You give GPT a text, it's able to complete the text for you. But that is not intuitive to human communication. That's why OpenAI trained it using these 3 steps to talk like a human being. So what they do is, a prompt is sampled from our prompt data set. So they have a data set. For example, the prompt includes explain reinforcement learning to a 6-year-old. And then they have a human being write do the task based on the prompt. So you have a prompt, and then a human being explains reinforcement learning like they are explaining it to a 6-year-old. ChatGPT or OpenAI takes that message that the human generated and gives it to its model. It says to its model, you know what? A real human would answer this question like this. So you should take this into consideration. Step 2. Now, a prompt and several model outputs are sampled. So now that the model knows, and this is done a couple of thousands of times, right? Now that the model knows how a human being would answer a prompt, the model generates a couple of options. And then a human orders the machine-generated answers now based on whether or not they look really like good answers. And OpenAI further gives human choices to its model, and now its model is able to order the answer. So we are using human beings in every part of this process. And now OpenAI finally does this without a human in the loop. A new prompt is sampled from the dataset. So OpenAI has a dataset of prompts like this one here, explain reinforcement learning to a 6-year-old. This might be explain signs to me like I am a 3-year-old or anything really. And now it's able to use the data it learned from humans in training ChatGPT. And that's how ChatGPT was born. Before I move on, I would like to talk to you about some alternatives. When I talk about large language models like GPT, we are not only constrained by GPT, right? We don't only have GPT as a large language model. Currently, Facebook created, for example, a GPT-like language model called Llama, and it is actually open source. whereas GPT isn't. So Llama is already being used by tools like Open Assistant, and you might actually have access to Open Assistant already in Hong Kong. I will give you an introduction to the tool so that you know what it looks like. If you go to huggingchat.com or .co, I'll just use this article to quickly go there. huggingface.co/chat. Here it is. It uses Llama model, which is open source, and Open Assistant is an initiative created by people that actually want these models to be publicly available, and they want these models to be trained by people for the people. Now, OpenAI started with that motivation. Hopefully, these people will not turn to profit, but there are more checks in place for Open Assistant because it's literally open. Everyone, you can go there and train the model like OpenAI trained its model, and I showed you in the previous slide how it did. So let's try it. Define, let me just say here, define science like I am 5 years old. So I tested this already, but let me try it again. And maybe this time I will copy it. Okay, there it goes. It's taken some time to generate the answer. And there it goes. Science is finding out how things work by using your head, thinking, as well as your hands. It made a grammatical mistake there, doing stuff. You can then use this knowledge to make up experiments and have fun learning new things. Is that okay? Anything else I can explain simply for you? It's when we compare this model to ChatGPT, you can immediately see that it's not there yet. But if you would like to invest in open science and open source techniques, you can go and contribute to this project. Another tool that we have is Bing Chat. Now, I told you already that Microsoft owns OpenAI right now by approximately 80%. If you go to bing.com, you will see that Bing is currently powered by GPT-4. ChatGPT uses GPT 3.5, which is significantly less powerful than GPT-4. If you want to use GPT-4, you will have to pay OpenAI $20 each month, and that comes at that comes with limits too. But with Bing, you can use it for free. And the good thing about this is GPT-4 is actually connected to the internet. So GPT-4 can answer your questions. Let me give you a demonstration. Define scientific method. Maybe I should go for, oh, I'm not signed in. Let me try Microsoft Edge here. All right. Define scientific method. And then I'm going to go to chat. And then I'll ask the question again, define scientific. Oh, it's doing it. As you can see here, it's answering the questions. Not only that, it also includes the sources that it used to generate this text. We have 3 sources here. And you can give it a thumbs up or thumbs down, depending on whether or not you would like to train it further to give you better answers. And then we have here some options. This is, in machine learning speak, is the temperature of the model. And if you would like it to be more precise, you select this option, which says to GPT, use words exactly as close to the corpus that you were trained on as possible. Do not be creative. Do not use, go out of the tradition here. But if you want it to be more creative, you can select this option. A more balanced option is somewhere in between. This is available to you also in Microsoft Edge. If you go to the top right, you will see a Bing chat option. The good thing about this is, and I think this is revolutionary, the Bing chat will be able to answer questions about an open website that you have or an open PDF file. Let's try it together. Let's go to Wikipedia together, which is known to be a great source of information. Click on Wikipedia. Let's go to ethics in AI. I don't know if they created that already, but all right, maybe ethics in general, or let's say ethics in research. They'll find something eventually. Let's click on research. So I am using more precise here because I would like the GPT model to be as loyal to the text as possible. You can see that if I asked it to be more creative, you can see that the problem can be it can create some answers that aren't in the source text. This is a behavior that is known as hallucination, and this is expected from large language models. They are sometimes confidently incorrect, and they will not accept that they are incorrect because they are not trained to do so. Of course, we are still developing these tools, and they will get better and better at stating facts. Let's ask it a question, such as, what is research? According to, let's add this one to, according to the article. It's gonna run its engine. It's gonna check the website, which it calls context, and there it goes. According to the web page, research is creative and systematic work undertaken to increase the stock of knowledge. As you can see here, exactly that. We can go to Atlantic. So here is one article, but I'm not able to see it. Let me see if I can find. See. Oh, this is paywall too. Normally I have subscription, but I wanted to show you how you can use this tool to look for the argumentation in the text too. If you instruct it to give me the argumentation on this web page, it's going to give you what the claim is and how the author supports their claims. So let's also try it with some books that we have. So here I have this book.
Burak, you have
Yeah.
a suggestion. You can go to BBC. Someone in the chat.
BBC.
BBC is open.
Thank you so
Because
much for it.
This one can be really useful because some of us analyze in-depth interviews, and we can apply it for analyze text and identify arguments. So it will be good if you can show it.
Thank you for that. So let's see, BBC, and we can do how to tell other people's stories. Let me see, maybe this one, the cult book that lost their control, their cool. All right, so let's say I am going to click on this new topic button. Let's say I need to analyze this text. This is an opinion piece, so I know that there is going to be an argumentation. Hopefully, this is just a, this is not a given, but let's see. What is the argument structure of this essay? So when it's not able to figure out what I mean by argument structure of this essay, it goes to the internet and finds first what argument structure of an essay means or might mean. And then it gives me the answer, connecting to the context here. The argument structure of this essay is derived from the web page context. The author begins by defining what a cult book is and its qualities. The author then presents the main argument that cult books can sometimes age badly and provides examples of books that were once considered hip, but are now seen as dated, irrelevant, or offensive. As you can see here, this can be a very valuable tool, but we'll discuss how we need to use these tools. And I can, because this is a conversation, I can ask further question. What is one example that the author gives to support his or her claim? One example that the author gives to support their claim that cult books can sometimes age badly is The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. The author argues that the protagonist, Holden something, is now seen by some as self-indulgent and his problems are not as significant compared to issues such as climate change. And there it goes. A great tool, really. Another aspect that I would like to introduce in this workshop is let me show you what it can do with an academic article. So let's open up an academic article here. Could you give me one relevant journal to you?
American Sociological Review.
All right, fantastic choice. We go there. Hopefully it will give me access because I'm on campus, or we can find that one that's open access. All right, so let's create a new topic by pressing this button and ask it, what are the research questions of this article? I misspelled article, but it will understand me because it's an intelligent language model. The main research question of this article is to investigate the extent and mechanisms through which Matthew effects create persistent status hierarchies. The authors propose a model that highlights the role of cumulative status bias in the feedback loop that leads from initial status allocation to status confirmation. Let's actually check if there are research questions here. Maybe they mentioned the word research question. Not really. Maybe here. Investigate the extent and mechanisms. All right, it understood the research question from here, although the authors didn't really state it outright. If the authors stated the research questions outright, Bing Chat would be able to give me clearer answers. So this is a learning moment. This is going to tie in very nicely with what I have in the next slides, is that when you trust Bing Chat without referring back to the academic article yourself, you risk being misinformed. So our approach to research should be human-guided, if we're going to include chatbots, right? Human-guided, but chatbot-enhanced research. And that ties in very well with the principles that we set in the beginning of the slide. So I'm going to go back to my slides to continue the conversation now that I illustrated some of the potential of these tools. In the following hour, we will have hands-on activities, but these activities will the first initial hour will mostly be me giving you some ideas. I saw someone raising their hands. If they are willing to still speak, I am all ears.
Yes, thank you. I have a question just about this demonstration which you just performed a moment ago. How did you get to this Bing chat? So you open it on just normally on your browser, and
That's a very good question. So because Bing Chat is owned by Microsoft, and Microsoft also owns Microsoft Edge, they limited Bing Chat use to Microsoft Edge only. So if you try to reach Bing Chat from Chrome or Mozilla Firefox, it will ask you to install Microsoft Edge and then use Bing Chat. And one other thing that you need to do before having access to Bing Chat is to sign up for the Bing Chat, and they're going to waitlist people when they sign up, but the waitlist time is relatively short in my experience. So if you would like to try it, you can go to Bing Chat waitlist, and then click either one of these articles really, and then it will guide you as to how you can sign up for this tool.
So and just to be clear about this, so this Bing Chat is the ChatGPT on Bing, or it is something else by Microsoft, some different mode of AI?
Again, very good question. It's actually because OpenAI is owned by Microsoft by 80% today, until they get their investment back. That's the agreement between OpenAI and Microsoft. They use GPT-4 in Bing Chat, and they offer Bing Chat only to Microsoft Edge users. So they are trying to promote Bing search over Google, and they are trying to promote Microsoft Edge over Google Chrome. So they are trying to seize the moment by giving access to people only if they use Bing Chat, Bing Search, and Microsoft Edge. I hope that answered your question.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for asking. Yeah.
I
can
just
answer.
I wanna add that additional information because I signed up on Wednesday. I log in and still I have the message that I am in wait list. So at least it's taking 2 days, but it seems that it's not going to be rejected. So I just should wait, but it has been 2 days and I haven't received the access yet.
Thanks for that information. Also, I think it's a better idea to get in that list as early as you can, no matter whether they will give you access now or 1 week later, because they follow literally, it's first come first serve. So you want to be up in that list. So it's a great time to sign up for it. But thank you for that bit of information. So moving on with the component bit. So just before moving on, I would like to mention that Google also immediately, of course, published or publicized their chatbot Bard, which is, in my opinion, nowhere near GPT. GPT really, ChatGPT really is the best, in my opinion, right now. So one other thing that will affect our conversation in ethics when it comes to ChatGPT in research and academic instruction. So here is the overview that I would like to give you, right? We have a model. These AI models don't know anything about human text, or they don't even know what anything is. But we can turn the things that we understand, such as words or images, into ones and zeros, into vectors, right? So let's do one exercise now together, okay? This is called, let's see. First, let me get rid of these bits right here. All right. So there we go. So let's say we are trying to get the machine to understand some language, right? We have, for example, pizza. We have hamburger. And we have ice cream. Sorry if you're hungry today, but these are the examples that I came up with. And then we need to come up with some features. For example, one feature can be has bread. Another can be Italian, let's say, or Italy associated. Maybe they don't come from Italy, but it's Italy associated. Another is cold served, or served cold. These are the features that we came up with, right? So for pizza, I can just create a vector representing whether or not pizza has these features. If the pizza has one of these features, I'm going to put 1. If it doesn't have the feature, then I'm going to put 0. So pizza has bread, Italian, cold served, 0. Hamburger has bread, not Italian, not cold served. Ice cream doesn't have bread, isn't associated with Italy, cold served, yes. So immediately the machine then is able to now read pizza, because the machine understands 110, 100, and ice cream 001. Now imagine this being done on a billions of text bases. That's why these models like GPT, when we talk about these models, we are talking about millions of parameters, right? GPT-3 has approximately 175 billion parameters. Do you want to know GPT-4? 1 trillion. This just means that when these models look at the text, they're able to figure out all these features about the text, and they can turn them into these type of vectors and find patterns between them. For example, a model can see pizza and Italy closer together, and now the model knows statistically Italy and pizza will appear closer, whereas pizza and maybe Antarctica will not appear as close. So in order to achieve this, I need a corpus. That is question one that we need to think about, right? Where does the text come from? That's question one. And then, as I explained to you, ChatGPT, OpenAI also used this technique, which is reinforcement learning, human feedback, which I showed you, right? Human is doing a task, and then the model is fed how the human approaches the task, and then learns how the human approaches the task, and then gets better and better. Who were those humans? Did they include scientists when they trained these models, right? Where did the text come from? That's another question. And then we talked about hyperparameters such as the temperature I showed you, right? Like Bing Chat has, for example, more precise language, and then less precise language, more creative language. When we interact with ChatGPT, who controls those parameters that lets ChatGPT, for example, answer in one way and one day answers in another? And what does it mean for science if an organization can change the hyperparameters? These are above parameters that we have no control over, right? Only OpenAI can change these. Who has control over the parameters we don't see? And then other components, such as the content moderation AI model that ChatGPT has in place. Basically, what this model does is it watches your interactions with the model and decides whether or not you're being sexist, racist, or decides whether or not the model is producing sexist, racist answers that shouldn't be shared with people en masse. And then it stops the model. Sometimes maybe you notice that when you talk to ChatGPT, it's going to tell you, I'm an AI model, I don't know anything about this, or I can't answer that question really. That wasn't the case. Content moderation model was put in place to prevent that. So there are, as you can see, other models in place. So what happens when OpenAI decides to put another model that changes the system's behavior entirely, right? These are the questions we need to ask ourselves if we want to use such tools for science, because a lot of the answers, if we go back to the previous slides, a lot of the answers included reproducibility, right? Accountability, openness, right? But we're not seeing those qualities in this service. Or do we see them? I don't know. These are questions, right? So we have the interface as well. In the interface, you'll find your chat history to the side, which you can now opt out of. If you don't want OpenAI to use your chat history and your data, you can click here on your username, go to settings, and then data controls, say show, and then turn off this chat history and training. If I turn it back on, it will let me see all of my history, and it will use it. So they are trying to sort of reward people for turning it on because you're able to access your chat history. I'm showing it again. You go to your username, you go to settings, say show when you see data controls, and then turn off your chat history and training option. Remember, this will make OpenAI delete your entire chat history in 30 days. So please remember to save your chat history by exporting your data here. If you click export data, it will download all of your chats, the questions you asked, and ChatGPT's answers. Yeah. And then we have chat history here, a context window here, sometimes known as text box as well in website speak. You have a text box and you give your prompt, and then you basically anchor the conversation around your first prompt, right? And then the chatbot will include the model selection here. Let me show you that one as well. If you use these models, there's going to be a model selection here. If you're a Plus user, I know that people may not have access to ChatGPT right now in Hong Kong, but in case in the future you see this, you can change the model. If you are a paying subscriber, I can choose GPT-4, but it will only give me 25 messages every 3 hours because GPT-4 is, like I mentioned before, is massively bigger than GPT 3.5, and that's why its speed is also slower than GPT-3 because they want to sort of limit its use. Okay, with all this information, now prompting. We came to prompting. I have a suggested workflow for you if you would like to use ChatGPT. A lot of people talk about prompt engineering as well. I think that might be an inflated term because this is a conversationalist agent, really. So if you mess up with your prompts, you can literally ask it to change that behavior, or that's not what I meant this one. So you have, endless chances to talk to ChatGPT, work with ChatGPT or ChatGPT-like agents, because you can literally, reiteratively keep talking to them. But what I will suggest is when you prompt, you have some define some limits, constraints. We're going to talk about all of these in detail. Define some rules for ChatGPT. I will show you one example too. Define the task. Right? And then define the expected outcome, if you can. All right? So here is how it looks. Let's see here. I am using it currently for, let me see, yeah. I'm using it currently to build machine learning models for my for an experiment I'm doing. I have machine learning knowledge already, but it takes a lot of time to, you know, code these kind of models. So look what I'm doing. I have a corpus of text files. I'm giving it some context because it can't reach out to my world and look around, right? I'm giving it some context. I have a corpus of text files. I also have a pandas data frame. Again, some data frame that's used in machine learning in Python that has information structured as following. So I give it the following information and the structure. I want you to do the following. See what I do. I give it everything it needs to do for me. That's why prompting is tricky, because I argue that this is still a programming language, because you need to come up with all the steps. This is engineering, actually, in that sense, not as, you know, let me maximize the efficiency of my prompt, but in a sense that you need to know the steps to what you are expecting ChatGPT to do. So group the files based on their prompt value, tokenize a text, extending the contractions such as its or won't, and removing anything but letters. So I know it's kind of involved, these instructions, but it's meant for me, right? For you, it's going to look entirely different. It's going to look like something that you have expertise in. And then it's able to give me this piece of code. And then I keep talking to it. Here, don't just do its or won't, I'm meaning the words, but do all contractions, because look what it did. I wanted it to extend the contractions its to it is and won't to will not. And then it just included those examples. So I am checking the code and I'm letting it know that you give me something more general. And then it's able to give me that. And then it sort of, let me see. Oh yeah, it uses a library of contractions. And then now it's using that library to apply all the contractions that come with this library to the text, as you can see. So honestly, I am having ChatGPT open to the side and treating it like an all-powerful, all-knowing tool, but needs my supervision. So I'm having it open, and then I'm talking to it. Considering I have 12,100 text files to look at, how can we make this code more memory efficient? See, it's not going to give me everything. I still need to know what I'm about, but I'm still, you know, talking to it. And then it gives me, to make the code more memory efficient, we can process the text files one by one and update the quadram counts and stuff like that. See, the code is getting better and better. The more information I provide to it, it's gonna give me, you know, better and better code. And so finally, I executed the task because I was able to achieve it, right? The way I described to it. So very briefly then, our workflow includes this. And then we'll move on to hands-on exercises. I realize this was a long introduction to ChatGPT and how to talk to it and all that, but it's such a new technology and people need to know a lot of things before actually getting their hands on the stuff. I try to give you as much as I can so that you know better how to approach this new technology, really. And then I will have you ask your questions at the end. So workflow includes this. So first, in research and education, right, we have to come up with a task. So the first thing to do is come up with a task. All right, come up with a task. And then we're going to move on to the next stage. Define ChatGPT's role. How can ChatGPT help you achieve that task, right? And then we're going to move on to 3. What is the expected outcome? What do you want ChatGPT to do exactly? Can you exemplify? ChatGPT works great if you can provide some examples to it based on the things that you want it to achieve. For example, use this information, give me something that's structured like this. All right. And then finally, and this is reiterative, evaluate ChatGPT's answer. And if you're satisfied with it, then that's cool. Keep talking to it. All of this, when it comes to research and education, follows the same steps, but we need to be more careful because science and education, they have impact on actual people's lives. That's why we need to distinguish between 2 tasks. Task 1 includes repetitive, low impact tasks. These are tasks like generate some ideas for me, right? Write a poem to me. This is fine. You can do those repetitive low impact tasks, or give me an email template to send an announcement about this to my students. That's also fine. But some tasks are cognitive tasks that are high impact. And these tasks...
You stop sharing the screen.
Oh. Is it my computer? All right. Is it back on? All right, perfect. But these tasks require our attention. These tasks includes, for example, the illustrations that I did with Bing Chat, right? For example, what are the research questions? What is the argumentation of this or argumentation structure of this essay? Because if I only listen to ChatGPT when it comes to those big questions, we risk not actually having a scientific communication among each other, but we let ChatGPT decide what your paper is about and what I'm talking about and what kind of questions you are asking and what kind of questions I'm answering. So it's all clouded. That's why we need to fact check when it comes to cognitive tasks that are high impact, which is what we scientists do. So as you can see here, low stakes, high stakes tasks, I already made that distinction. And now we are going to move to the hands-on part of our workshop. But before going there, I would like to ask you again, can we come up with some research tasks that we want ChatGPT to do? And then I'll ask you to come up with some instructor tasks. And then we'll actually try some tasks that I prepared for you with all the instructions and all. And then we will discuss our experiences with ChatGPT, right? Come back. And then we will move on to Q&A session. where you will get to ask your specific questions. But give me your research tasks that you have been doing so far with ChatGPT, or you would like to do with ChatGPT, or any speaking chatbot agent, really. All right, examples for my classes. Right, recommendations of coding in R. These are really good examples again. I want ChatGPT to apply a coding manual on a transcript. Okay. Coding application, let's say application of a coding manual on a transcript. Do we have any other ideas when it comes to instructor tasks? Some popular tasks are summarizing students' work, asking specific questions. For example, did the student answer this, right? Or did the student address this aspect? But one consideration here, ethical consideration here, is when you share your students' work on ChatGPT, that's some consideration you need to be thinking about, because you're essentially using your students' work that these companies might use in their training. So make sure that you opt out. And if you don't see that opt-out option, because I know that some of you are using some apps for ChatGPT, you can type here OpenAI opt-out form. And then if you do that, it's going to give you this website, or any website really, that tells you how to opt out of ChatGPT data collection. And once you click that, you'll be able to go to the website. I think it's my computer that's having some kind of problem. Okay, so data opt-out request, and then you fill in the form, and then you go there. So I would make sure to do that. What about some research tasks? Why do you want to use ChatGPT, or why are you what are you using ChatGPT to achieve in your research? That's a very good question. Someone asked, could GPT guide me to decide what kind of data analysis I should perform? I can just show you one piece of information here. This is a conversation I had with ChatGPT. So I am asking it here, for example, what is support, precision, recall, F1 score, and all that, just to test its knowledge. And then it gives me some answer. And then I ask it, what other classifiers can I use instead of support vector machines, right? And then it's able to give me, you can use logistic regression, you can use random forest, you can use gradient boosting. And I wanted the code for all of that. And it's able to give me the code for all of that for me to try. So literally, principles are treat ChatGPT like it's all-knowing and all-powerful. It can do anything and it knows everything. Don't shy away from asking anything or wanting it to do anything. Use ChatGPT to mimic pitches of successful social entrepreneurs. That is a great use for it. You would approach, so can we say real life data simulation in general, right? One aspect I use it personally is explain like I'm 5 years old. I have something open and I ask it to, for example, explain this term in this context. I don't know it, like I'm 5 years old, and it's able to give me a more concrete language that I know will understand better. Another is data extraction, right? You give it some data and then you ask, for example, what is participant two's native language? And it's able to give you that. Ask what ChatGPT understands from my arguments in my manuscript. That's a great use because ChatGPT can be a rehearsing tool, right? It can be a rehearsal tool. For example, before this workshop, I asked ChatGPT what are some questions that people might ask based on this abstract and these objectives, and it's given me some questions for me to practice on. Literally, one of the reasons why this feels like, you know, it's all over the place when somebody talks about ChatGPT is because ChatGPT is actually a Swiss knife, right? It can do anything for you, anything. So a lot of people will talk about all these aspects until we have our specialized ChatGPTs. I'm waiting for one for research. All right, shall we move on to our hands-on part then? So for this, I am going to share with you this folder. Via Zoom chat, so you have access to it. So this is going to be kind of tricky because a lot of people are going to use ChatGPT on their mobile phones. We're going to do two activities. One, low stakes activities. And if you remember, these included things that don't require critical thinking that much. They just require they are repetitive tasks. They are generally tasks that are to do with templates and all that. So what I would like you to do is use ChatGPT now to generate some ideas for you when it comes to your research. If you're interested in one topic, just go ahead and use ChatGPT to brainstorm some ideas that you can turn into a research paper. And then I'll ask you what ChatGPT came up with, whether or not those answers are valid or nice. What do you think about those, all right? And then we will move on to the link I shared with you. But let's get warmed up to it a little bit. All right, if anyone is willing to share their the ideas that they generated, go ahead and unmute yourself or type in the text box, please.
Maybe I can start.
Awesome.
Yes, so I ask in my phone, explain probabilistic sampling to a 6 years old. Because I am teaching research methods this term. So it says probabilistic sampling means choosing things randomly, like picking a name out of a hat or rolling a dice. This helps me make sure that everyone and everything has an equal chance of being picked. It is like a fair game where everyone has an equal chance of winning.
Right. Are you satisfied with the answer it gave you?
Yes, I like the actually the examples too. Yes.
Right. So that's a great idea, because we need to sometimes simplify things that might seem involved, right? So ChatGPT can be a great tool doing that. What about others? Do you have any experiences to share right now or in the past? That you use ChatGPT in low stakes tasks such as email writing or synthetic data generation, anything like that? All right. So I'm going to ask you whether or not you can confirm you can access the link I shared with everybody. Yes. Awesome. Perfect. Okay. I included some use cases for you to look at and consider whether or not you would like to have something like that. For example, research use. When we go to research use, I have some explain like I'm 5 content for you. So in this case, right, I'm prompting ChatGPT to explain to me what epigenetic modification means, like I'm 5, and then it explains me, and the language, like we discussed, is way simpler. And then we have summary of research article. This might be considered to be a cognitive task, right? That's not low impact, because this is actually summarizing the essential information. So I need to verify with the text that I'm reading, but this can give me some bullet points to look for in the text immediately, rather than me trying to figure out what essential information is there. I can ask ChatGPT to do that for me, but I can refer back to the paper to verify it, right? And then it's able to give me all this information just like that. So purpose of the study, participants of the study, pre-post tests, results, all of the information I can get from ChatGPT just like that. And then I have cohesion, which is, you have a text that you are not, you're not really sure whether or not it's cohesive. You can just ask ChatGPT to turn it into a cohesive text, and then it's able to give you these examples. Are not really doing it justice, but it's able to, even move your arguments in different ways that will help you create a better writing. So in that way, it's also a writing tool.
Can I ask ChatGPT, is this cohesive?
You can, yes. And then 2 tips I would like people here to consider from me is always ask ChatGPT to explain its answers. That way you can spot whether or not it is producing something that's not true. And also you can check for yourself whether or not ChatGPT's argumentation is okay, right? That's a very good use, actually. Thanks for pointing that out.
And do you recommend a second prompt, or immediately to ask, is this cohesive? Give me examples, or is the second task?
You can either ask it in the same prompt, like, give me this, but also explain to me why you gave me this, or you can ask it after the fact when it gave you an answer, and you can be like, why did you come up with that answer, or why did you give me that text, right? But definitely a good use. Another tip that I have is if you are working on a text like we did with Bing Chat, right? Or if you're copying and pasting a text and then asking it to show you something, ask it to give you an answer in addition to the source quote that it got from the main text, right? So for example, ChatGPT, what's the answer to this question based on the text? Also give me the relevant bit from the text so I can check, right? So verification, definitely. So if, I don't know how we're going to do this, but if you are up for it, I know that people are accessing ChatGPT via their mobile phones, so this might be kind of not easy for them to do, but if you would like to go ahead and test one of these tasks out as a group or individually, that would play out well. What do you think? Do you think that would be feasible?
I know that some of us has the ChatGPT with the VPN, so some of us are using it. I am using it just with my phone, but I know that some of my colleagues have been using it also in the laptop. So I think for some of us will be easier just to run it directly in the laptop. And for the ones with the phone, I don't know.
Right, phone can be a little bit tricky, but if people have access to these files via their laptops, I really encourage them to try these out and share with us their experiences, how it went, and whether or not they got valid answers, truth answers, or it was just silly answers. Maybe pick one task from here and try it out, either based on the text synthetic data I provide to you, or use your own data if you are up for it. So would anyone be willing to share their experiences, either now or past experiences with ChatGPT, working on either one of these tasks or any task really for research?
Excuse me, I just tested something, and I thought this might be interesting to share. Because we talked about control ChatGPT and thoughts like this could possibly have on our research practice. And I just did it with the phone version very, very briefly. I gave them like a very, very low-key version of my research project. I said, like, I want to do a documentary without explaining what it is. analysis of Tinder profile pictures. What kind of research questions can you suggest me? And it was literally only suggesting me correlation questions, like the impact of like facial expressions on perceived attractivity. And I thought this is interesting because it's a very positivist research paradigm here. Like you measure two variables and you see the correlation, which is valid by itself. But I was surprised. I asked for 5 suggestions and all 5 suggestions go in this direction. Then I had to ask again, do the same task without correlations. And then it gave me like ideas, something I actually wanted to hear, like the cultural blueprint or the cultural difference concerning those dimensions again. But again, my point here is that I think it's interesting without correcting the model and questioning it and having an idea ourselves. Like in the worst case, I see it now coming that people, they start to come up with ideas and then they accept those, and this will like reinforce a certain bias of what questions are relevant in the first place. Because
Exactly.
I mean, I mean, of course, it's trained with data, so I'm actually not even surprised that the first suggestion, without actually defining what I want, that the first suggestion is in a positive, what I would call a dominant research paradigm. So in the worst case, it's like reaffirming itself over and over and over. I think it's our task to keep an eye on that.
Definitely. Thank you for bringing that point up. So one thing to be cautious about when it comes to these models too, because they were trained on some corpus, right? And they were trained by some people, they will take up the practices that they've seen the most in the text that they've seen, right? And so if they've seen the research question examples that you mentioned, which interestingly, you mentioned that that's the dominant paradigm in the field that you wanted ChatGPT to answer about, which is really interesting. So definitely keeping that conversation open with ChatGPT, and also maybe sharing your own thoughts with ChatGPT too, right? Like this is these are good questions, or these are some of these questions are valid, but this is the dominant paradigm in this research. I was looking more for creative research questions and things like that might make ChatGPT give you maybe more creative answers, but definitely an amazing point to bring up here. Somebody asked, Hussein asked if everyone asks exactly the same question, will the answer produced by ChatGPT be same or different for everyone? It will be more or less different. And they, at the end of this workshop, I provide some resources for you to visit on ChatGPT, on ethics, on AI, ChatGPT in education, ChatGPT in research, and their own website has as one of the limitations when it comes to reproducibility. They say, even when you change one word in your prompt, it can affect the answer completely. So it has some implications for us. Thanks for that question. And then Liang Shang asks, I typed, can you generate a research idea about social innovation education? And ChatGPT generated title, background, research questions, objectives, expected outcomes, right? So the more I want to emphasize here, the more specific you are with ChatGPT, the more specific it will be when it comes to generating ideas. If you give it, just give me an email template, right? You don't know what it's going to give. More specific, give me an academic email template. It's going to be more specific. Give me an academic email template to answer a question that one of my students asked me, even more specific. So it's getting more and more specific. So you get out what you put in, literally. Exactly. I second Ananda's question. Do you think it was a good answer? And then one says, I typed the prompt, can you extract a list of definitions related to second language acquisition from this applied linguistics research article with the example text you provided? via ChatGPT app, the app gives a similar response that appeared in your doc as well. Okay, but similar response it can give, but the problem is we're not sure about that, right? But thank you for bringing that up. Because of the things that I mentioned, the factors in the training and, you know, within the system, greater system of ChatGPT, such as hyperparameters, right? Content moderation model and all that, they can either change drastically or they can give you similar answers. But for us scientists, what matters is, am I sure 100% that I will get more or less the same answer? That's when the answer is no. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. And then Liang said it was an interesting answer, and I asked it to give me more ideas. It generated different ones, definitely. So when it comes to ChatGPT, right, have an open mind, like we discussed in the beginning of this workshop. Question it. That's what we scientists do. Question it, verify it, but also have this conversation with it. Trust it a little bit. Trust its execution, but always question the outcomes, if that makes sense, until you get the desired task execution from ChatGPT. Place your trust in ChatGPT, but at the same time, be very suspicious. So kind of dichotomy. Yes, I can answer the question.
I want to share one more. So I took an abstract from one journal. I pasted the abstract and I asked to give me the themes in the abstract, because this is what we sometimes do with qualitative data, so thematic analysis, but we do it manually. So, but I asked ChatGPT, give me the themes, and gave me 5 themes, and with the description of the themes. But then the second task that I asked was, can you give me quotations for each theme given above? And for each theme, again, gave me quotations from the text that was analyzing above. And with that, I could also validate.
You're able to fact check it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, amazing. And one more thing. So I encourage everyone in this workshop today to also have a modular approach to ChatGPT when it comes to research. So what I mean by modular approach is this: have different ChatGPTs with different roles. Treat them like different people, really. So one ChatGPT can be your literature review coach. Another is checking your arguments. Another is only looking at your emails, maybe. Another is trying to find good titles for you. So that way we are keeping the roles separated, and that way we know that one executor, one chatbot, or one chatbot instance will only think about, you know, for example, literature review, or will only think about email writing. Therefore, the benefit that you'll get from these individual different role agents will maximize. Another thing that I would like to mention is, do not, again, I repeat, do not be afraid to mix and match ideas. For example, you find this framework, right, online. Introduce it to ChatGPT and say, based on this framework, how do you evaluate this other text that I have? So I have 2 texts now. Or better yet, by using Bing Chat or ChatGPT nonetheless, because you can include these texts in ChatGPT, you read 2 papers, for example. You're doing literature review and you're trying to see how papers interact with each other. Literally, copy and paste the context from one research paper, and then one paragraph from another research paper, and say, here is research paper 1, or here is an excerpt from research paper 1. Can you check whether or not the excerpt that I gave you contradicts this other argument that I'm giving you? or supports this other argument that I'm giving you. That way, you can literally get two papers talking to each other, right? Provide both papers or bits from both papers and say, I am providing you two different texts from two different authors. Do they contradict each other? If so, how? Show me the bits that contradict each other. Do they support each other? If so, how? So literally, the possibilities are immense. And if you would like to move on to the question and answering bit right now, we can. If you would like to try out more, I'm also willing to do that with you. But since we have 2 hours for this, I would like to slowly go on to the interactive Q&A. But before that, let me remind you one take-home message I have for you. For some, maybe this might be a familiar image. This is from Plato's thought experiment, really. So Plato says, builds up this thought experiment. So imagine there are some people, as you see here, we actually change to my laser pointer here. Imagine there are some people, right here, as you can see, but they can't move their heads and they can't turn their bodies. And somehow they live in this cave. And imagine, Plato says, there is a fire, and then there are some people really just showing some paper cut stuff in front of the fire. And then Plato says, these things, although they don't represent reality, although they are not what's happening outside, as you can see, this is reality, these people will look at the shadows of these not so real things and will think that this is what's happening outside. I would like you to take home one message from this speech, if I can. If we let ChatGPT decide what we're going to do with our research, if we let ChatGPT to grade our students' work without our introspection, we are literally these people. We're letting ChatGPT give us its own version of reality, but we miss what's going on around here. And to tie it back to the things that we first discussed in the beginning of this workshop, science teaching is all about knowledge transfer. Science means to know in Latin. So if we are not going to use ChatGPT to know stuff or to further our knowledge about natural phenomena, natural things, then we might as well not use this technology. So I thank you so much for having me today. Hopefully this was a little bit useful speech for you. It gave you, I know it gave you a lot, but I hope it made some things click, question you a couple of things, or gave you some ideas. If that happened, I'll take this as a win for our conversation here. And if you, for the remaining of the time, I am willing to answer your questions about AI, chatbots, NLP, anything today that's happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's have a round of Q&A questions. So Burak, thank you so much. I think it was really inspiring, and it gave us a lot to understand actually the basics, what is behind to opening the black box of ChatGPT. And of course, it's really inspiring to keep using a smart and ethical use of ChatGPT. So, and I saw that we have questions. So Tobias, please. Tobias.
Thank you. Thank you again also for your presentation. I tried to make it very short, and I think what I'm about to say now is something that many have this on their mind. So when it comes to actually evaluating content, either it's from our students or from like other researchers, I think, and this will be like in like also a grown industry in the coming months and years, there are also like counter tools, tools designed to figure out is something generated by an AI. And I, for example, read the documentation of Turnitin on this, and I think we are not that far yet that we can have like a detailed list and it gives an evaluation and tells us why. And that's the thing. Right now we are just bombarded with scores and possibilities. And the issue I have here now, and this is really the crux. I mean, technically there are so many AI elements already in our everyday life for many years before it became such a big buzzword. Translation is, I think, for many years already pretty much AI powered, is simply not generative in that on that matter. So I really wonder what realistic tools we have right now, and of course, and we need to distinguish it from, in terms of ethical concerns, what we already do and never questioned before. Now everyone wants to have like an answer, but is this ethical? And we're literally doing it all the time. So I feel like we are a little bit pulling the rug under our own feet on that matter. And yeah, I would like to hear your thoughts on that, and especially when it comes to like, okay, what are the best tools right now in order to provide us with perspectives, not answers, but perspectives on that matter. Thank you.
So I'm just going to rephrase the question to check whether or not I understood it correctly. The question is regarding how to understand if a text was generated by AI or not, or is it AI generation tools in general?
I mean, we have particular concerns, and I think it differs a little bit between individuals here. But yeah, how can we, or like, what's our opinion? What's our state of the art right now concerning those tools that help us to understand whether content is AI generated in a way that we consider ethical or unethical?
That's a great question. So when it comes to content detection, we have two resources that I can share you with. One is coming from OpenAI classifier, AI classifier, OpenAI. So if you go to AI classifier OpenAI, it is going to give you this tool that's created by OpenAI to detect AI generated text. However, as you can see here, there is just a lot of limitations when it comes to these tools, and Turnitin also acknowledged this. There is a lot of false positives because, and one example can be one person copied and pasted Bible's opening verse, and these tools decided that it was AI generated, which got a laugh out of some people. And it says here as well. So our classifier is not fully reliable. In our evaluations on a challenge set of English text, our classifier correctly identifies 26 of AI written text as likely AI written, while incorrectly labeling human written text as AI written 9% of the time. So this is a big number. If you have 100 essays, then it's going to be, 10 essays will be incorrectly identified as AI generated, which gives students some right to, deny the fact. Also, I think we need to focus on the principal desire here. Let me say, like, if you would like to use AI to generate text for you, right? What you can do is you can just have AI generated text for you and then rewrite it with your own words, because these tools spot AI generated text by looking at the probability of the next word. So let me actually show you in the slide, because I feel like it's going to be a better way. So you will remember in the beginning of this presentation workshop, I mentioned that these tools are actually auto-completion tools, right? GPT is auto-completion tools. It is an auto-completion model. You give it a text, and then it's able to, let me go back here, maybe use, yeah. it's able to complete the text for you. That model was trained further to create ChatGPT. Now ChatGPT talks to us like a human being does. But what essentially happens is when a large language model, and large comes from the fact that they were trained on billions of text, sees a corpus of text, billions of texts, it's able to essentially look at words and look at how probable they are to follow or precede one another. For example, let me tell you, let me put it to test with you. When I say computer, what comes to your mind, Tobias?
Machine.
Machine. All right. Sorry, I wrote pizza. I'm really hungry, I think. I have been working a lot lately, and I didn't. Ananda sends me food now because I'm writing and creating stuff. Okay, computer, and then machine. But as you can see here, when we look at your cognitive model that you have, right, the language model that you have, you obviously have some sort of association between computer and machine. Where does this association come from, you think?
Where I get this association from?
Yeah, like when I say computer, why do you think of a machine then?
I guess it's a little bit about the context in which we actually talk about this, because another word on my mind would be tool, like in a very functional way.
Right.
But if you would ask me in a completely different interactional context in which we talk, I mean, I guess this is also how the model would do it, like looks at the paragraph before and after, and again, making sense out of those things.
Right.
This is also how I think I did it.
Right, definitely. It's such a great answer. When we see computer, we see the word machine more than let me see here. It's gonna get me some ideas here. Let me see. All right, let me use this one. So when I say computer, you think of machine. I would argue the reason is that you saw machine and computer more and more together, right? Or when I say banana, for example, a couple of words that might come to you would be monkey, maybe, or peel, or falling down from the cartoons, or maybe cartoon, right? We have this language model, and it's based on what other things that we saw next to this computer thing. And a large language model literally does the same. It literally looks at text and associates the meaning of one word with all the other words that are around one word. For example, the machine, when machine sees pizza, it's seeing Italy next to it, it's seeing pizzeria next to it, it sees oven next to it, but rarely ever maybe pizza and snow, for example. And that's how it knows that snow is less probable than oven to follow the word pizza. So how the Turnitin or AI classifiers are able to spot these AI generated texts is because they look at all the words in a submitted text. And if by chance it just so happens that every word is the most probable word that would occur before the current word, it is just the classifier says it is not humanly possible, because humans don't choose words based on the most probable following word or preceding word. This must be generated by a machine. That's why when we saw this more creative, more precise option, which is called, if you'll remember, temperature in machine learning speech, you are literally telling the language model that maybe do not, for example, be more creative, right? Be creative. If I select this option, I'm telling the model that do not choose the most probable word, and sometimes add this snow next to the pizza. which will make the text maybe sillier, but silly and creative generally, you know, sort of go hand in hand. So it's going to be more creative, but it can be silly too, because you're literally instructing it to use words that it doesn't associate with the current words. Okay, I hope that answered your question, Tobias. It was a very insightful question.
We have two more questions, so, but I think the one in the chat by 740537 was already answered, because Turnitin, I don't know if you know it, but this is the software that we use at the university. Any undergraduate student that had to submit an assignment, do it through this software. PhD students, our own research proposal for research funding go through this software, and it has the detection of IA. So I imagine that this software is working with you just described. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, so I think that is an answer with that. And Stefan has a question.
Yeah, thank you, Olivos, and thank you, Borak, for the fascinating workshop this morning.
Thank you.
I'm only just scratching the surface on all of this, but every time I listen to people that have worked more with ChatGPT, it kind of blows my mind what the abilities really are. I wanted to bring it maybe back a little bit to not so much students and detecting GPT use, but how we might use ChatGPT and these AI tools as researchers. And so I find it really interesting also in your talk this morning, there's different ways to describe what ChatGPT does, right? I think you used that phrase of a human-centered chatbot enhanced activity. What is research becoming? But then sometimes people talk about ChatGPT as this really knowledgeable research assistant. So I'm wondering what that means for our ethical responsibility as researchers to accredit the use of ChatGPT in our practice, and indeed whether there is any sort of good practice emerging in that area, or maybe you can talk a little bit about your own experience, how you have dealt with that issue in your own work.
That's a really great question. I mean, we have an amazing crowd here. This might be the best workshop I've ever done, because all the questions are really well targeted. So one thing that I can say about that is, so first of all, as researchers and scientists, we are curious beings, right? And we want to answer some questions. But when you look at our perception of the world, it comes from our senses, and some thinkers back in time, like Descartes, right? They even questioned whether or not those senses were right, and they came to the conclusion that only their thoughts were reliable, and they, you know, blurted out, "I think, therefore I am. I don't trust my own eyes and ears, but I'm able to think," which proves that I am real. When it comes to these models, machine learning models, empathize with them for a second, which is really, you know, like which was one of the words mentioned in the beginning of the workshop when I asked people to define a good scientist or a good instructor. We humans, we empathize. Even with machines, sometimes we humanize them. When you empathize with a language learning model like GPT, you see that its world knowledge is just the corpus it has seen. It's just mathematical associations. It can look like words, but everything that can appear on a computer is actually ones and zeros, right? Images and all that. When you look at an image, it's just pixels lit with the right color for us to perceive it as a horse or an animal or something like that. But when, from a language model's perspective or a computer's perspective, it's all associations. So I argue that in order for us to be knowledgeable, it takes more than just associations. It just needs to be synthesis, analysis, critical thinking, right? Questioning where the information comes from, comparing sources. These are all the things that these models or computers can't do by themselves. Even if they look like they are doing those things, it's because we humans equate linguistic competence with intelligence. And that's why sometimes, you know, when English is your second language, for example, people perceive you to be dumber than you actually are, but they don't realize what's happening here is not your ability to speak those ideas in your native tongue, maybe. And that's something that I sometimes suffer from, is I'm actually a smart person, but sometimes I'm not able to express those thoughts. Therefore, people who speak that language thinks of you as less intelligent sometimes, right? So what to answer your questions in a shorter way, we can be scientists. These machines are only probabilistic models that fool us that they are intelligent, sometimes very well so. Like when you look at ChatGPT, it's just like I'm talking to a human being, right? But it lacks all the things that make us good scientists, if that makes sense. Did that answer your question, hopefully?
I guess so. That means that my next article shouldn't be Kühner and ChatGPT that is published in the American Journal of Sociology, right?
Yeah. Can I add to that? I was actually also interested in that question, and some news outlets have reported that some academic journals have already banned the use of AI, like ChatGPT writing tools. And they also said you should never cite ChatGPT as a co-author. So some of like Springer and Elsevier, I think the journals under those publishers, you can't have ChatGPT as a co-author.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Ananda. I would also like to mention, before going to Francisco, we have two practices, Stefan, when it comes to crediting ChatGPT. I'm not saying don't use ChatGPT, by the way. This all is to say ChatGPT is not us, but they can be great tools for us. So MLA, just very recently, MLA chatbot citation, they sort of started this initiative where they want you to cite chatbots this way. This can be a starting point for you. And another point is which will be here in the resources too. If you go to I will share the slides with Francisco, and Francisco maybe can then share it with people. But if you go to this link right here, OpenAI also wants you to acknowledge. Let me see if I delete this last bit. Yes, OpenAI wants to also wants us to include an acknowledgement of ChatGPT if we in any way, shape or form used ChatGPT. And I wanted to sort of use this workshop opportunity to get us thinking about these things, be more interactive, because I also provide these resources, for example, educator considerations for ChatGPT, which you can then read alone, right? I wanted this to be more interactive and sort of question answering format, but I will include these resources and share them with you. And there's also one more concept that I would like to mention. Some people say that we are moving towards post-authorship, which means that the text will be owned by the public, the scientist, or the person who actually wrote the text, because we will rely on chatbots so much in the future, will not matter anymore. It's just going to be, an interactive sort of process. One keyword could be post-authorship as well, if you would like to dig deeper into this. But thank you for that question.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Burak, we are running out of time because we are beyond noon already. I know people already maybe getting hungry, and we said that this we was going to be until noon, and I know that it's also late in the States. But if you allow me, I have one more question. Maybe it can be the last one.
Definitely, I'll keep it short.
It's a question that is in my mind. Is can ChatGPT work with different languages if the quality of answers depend on the language because different corpuses, and if the questions will be different if I ask in Spanish, in English, in German, and how to handle that?
That's a really good question. ChatGPT can speak a lot of languages because it's able to figure out the language patterns, even if the data it has seen on that language is minimal compared to English. English, of course, is the most data it has seen, right? But I've heard from people and I've read that it's able to give very good answers in other languages as well. Only time will tell, really, as the research comes in with other languages with ChatGPT. As people use them, we will be able to better guess how ChatGPT will fare. Have you used it in Spanish?
I do when I want to know something more specific related with my country, like about politics. The answers tend to be much more detailed in Spanish, and also because I know, so I can actually validate it by myself. So I have noticed that they are more specific and better in Spanish in that particular case. But this is something that I don't know. But yeah,
it is possible, and time will tell, right? Would be my short answer. Thank you so much for having me today. It was a pleasure to be talking to everyone here with amazing questions, amazing welcoming attitude. Thank you so much.
Yes, and we were recording the workshop, so we will also share the link. So if I will send it to everyone later, so anyone that wants to have access to it, you feel free to share it too. Because we're talking about open access to knowledge, so we will also share it. Okay,
that's awesome. Somebody said thank you in Turkish. Thank you so much. Thank you, Francisco, too, for making this as smooth as possible. I know you've had another helper, if I'm not mistaken, Liang also.
Stella was helping to organize the workshop. Yeah.
So thank you for making this as smooth as possible. It was a pleasure to work with you and see all these people. Great questions, like I said. So hopefully we'll keep in touch, and I'm looking forward to how you and the people who attended today will play with it, contribute to science and education. I'm all looking forward to it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Burak. Çok teşekkürler. Bye.
Thank you.
You are so.
A good day
Thank you.
or a good night. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.